Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome in to the OnlyBets Sports Betting Podcast alongside my co-host SternBets and Drew DeLucci. I am Prince of Picks. Welcome in. Thanks for tuning in to the show. We have got the three-man weave for you today with us three here being on the show. So we're going to give you our best bets for the day. We got a lot of games taking place here in the sports landscape over the weekend, over the next 3 days, I should say here. So massive sporting events taking place between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we're going to have a lot of plays, a lot of looks, a lot of angles for you guys. And hopefully we will continue to cash out these tickets. Before I get into the picks here, real quick, if you guys can do us a solid, head on over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a real quick rate, review, and subscribe. It does wonders in terms of helping this channel grow and getting this podcast out to more potential listeners. You guys have been awesome with your support. Greatly appreciate it. We're going to continue to give you our best each and every show. With that being said, let me go ahead and pass it over to my co-host, Mr. SternBets, Mr. Mose. What's good, brother?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Denver didn't cover, but we hit the other two plays. So 2 in 1 day on the show. Didn't do as well in Conference League, but I want to hear your recap here. How was Europa League and Conference League yesterday? And then I really want to bring Drew in to talk about the finals, the USA Women's gold medal winner in overtime. That was, I mean, just an incredible game. But recap us on Europa League and Conference League first.
Yeah, so Europa League and Conference League was a little bit of a mixed bag. We didn't do quite as well as I had hoped, but that's the tricky part with Cup games is specifically in the Conference League, and this was something that I forgot to mention in the pre-show analysis, or I should say pre-tournament analysis. But in the Conference League, we had matchups featuring all teams that had never played each other before. So it was the first time in the history of these clubs that they had ever matched up against each other. So that's extremely rare to have. Usually, at some point, you'll find a matchup between two clubs in Europe, but in this case, we had none. So I think that played a little bit of a factor. You had teams that didn't really have a lot of familiarity with each other, and so things didn't quite happen the way we had totally expected. We did hit some, though, for sure. Nottingham Forest over 2.5 with Fenerbahce. That one did hit. I know, I think you might have been on BTTS on that one, which is crazy how Fenerbahce didn't score a goal at home. But in any case, that's the thing with cup games. But we do have the second leg coming up, and I do expect the second leg to be a lot more, I should say, entertaining and a little bit easier to cap because you're going to have teams in position to either have to win, have to go for it. They're not going to be able to play it cautious as much as they did in the first leg. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that second leg, both in the Europa League, Conference League, and Champions League. Definitely looking for Inter Milan to turn it on in the
Yeah,
second
what
leg.
a wild score, huh? I mean, like I had mentioned before, I mean, Bodo Glimt is that's a tough place to play just because it's an unfamiliar environment for a lot of these big European clubs. Not just playing on their artificial turf, but also playing in the Nordic region. That's just it's cold. It's kind of like the weather's gross there. You don't really want to play on that pitch. And it absolutely seems to have an effect on Inter Milan. But I'm really interested, to your point. I'm curious to see how this second leg goes. If Bodo can pull this off, that might be one of the biggest upset in Champions League history.
Well, we haven't had a Cinderella story in quite some time, so maybe this is it. But
Yeah,
let's talk about the Winter Olympics here. Drew, you and I were texting throughout the game. That was just one of the most unreal experiences. That was definitely a game of the day, game of the week, maybe the game of the month, or even maybe a half a year, because that was unbelievable. USA went down. I mean, first of all, I just got to say, I had the under first period, 1.5 goals, and that wasn't even a sweat. There was 3 goals in the entire game. And it was 1-0 until sometime in the closing, maybe 2-3 minutes of the third period, and then USA unbelievably tied it up and then went ahead and won in overtime. Can you recap us for just for the listeners here, what were your
Yeah.
thoughts? And because that was just an amazing game.
Oh, it was an amazing game, and something I'm going to shout out this person real quick because I was a goalie in soccer, and goalies don't get enough love. If you block a goal, it's supposed to be your fault. You're supposed to do it. If you don't, it's your fault. Shout out to Frankel. Just going to one goal basically all tournament. So shout out to her. She was blocking her, Batuti off. Like there was so many goals that where you thought Canada was going to score again, and they did on fast breaks. And the one goal she gave up, it was a 2-on-1. She was put in a difficult situation. But overall, it was an amazing game. People may have thought USA was on the brink because I thought it was bad. When it's 6 minutes left, Canada was on a power play, and USA's penalty kill was amazing. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I got them at plus 170. I'm rooting for them, and I saw my plus 455. And then all of a sudden, Canada made a mistake, and they got US in the penalty, and US capitalized and scored. And you could just see the faces of the Canadian women players. They just felt drained right there. And then we're heading to overtime, and we saw one of, to me, I think the best goals I've like seen in general from women's or men's, where she literally did a crossover and like hit the puck around the person and then hit it on the top. Like that was just a beautiful goal. I forgot who scored that, Stern, but it was amazing. Like
Yeah, it
amazing for
was.
America.
Yeah, that was quite the victory. Because it doesn't come closer to that than that.
Oh, and then you saw when the Canadians were getting the silver medal, you just saw a look at defeat in their eyes, like because they had it.
They had
They
it.
had
Well,
it.
they didn't just have it. They had it for the bulk of the game.
Yeah,
They had it up until the 58th minute.
they led the game. They led. Actually, they never trailed until the final second.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
wild. All
Well,
right, and
also, I actually have an interesting fact that I learned. So, it's never happened in Olympic winter history where U.S. men's and U.S. women's hockey has beaten Canada in the Gold Cup round. So, we'll see if we can do that if
yeah,
Canada wins today. But that's never
well,
happened before.
they're down 2-0 right now. It looks like they're really missing their captain. So yeah, we're gonna be watching that game. The money line right now is plus 140, which I don't think is a bad value, but my pregame look here was on the Finland side, so I think I just have to lay off and trust my instincts and my research. But yeah, let's move into NBA. Prince, give us a recap on what happened on our first day back from break here.
Yeah, so I mean, we had a lot of great games, of course, but the tank is back on. I mean, the teams that are tanking, they're picking up right where they left off. And you had some really lopsided scores again last night. Of course, Brooklyn getting beat down by Cleveland, and Brooklyn barely being able to hit. What was I think it barely got over 80 points, which I foreshadowing here. I expect a similar offensive output tonight against the OKC Thunder in Oklahoma City. I know OKC might not be playing all their best players in that one, but I think Brooklyn is going to struggle again offensively tonight. But in any case, here we saw the Spurs kind of pick up where they left off and just completely dominated the Suns here. Suns are starting to reel a little bit. I hope, for the Suns' sake that they, as a Suns fan myself, hopefully they can pick it back up. But they've kind of, it seems to that kind of plateaued a little bit, I would say. But we'll see. Maybe, I mean, they have played some really good teams lately, so we'll see what they do against some of the teams that are more on their skill level. But other than that, I mean, we got a great slate of games tonight. Officially, I don't have anything because I just have so many soccer picks. For the sake of preservation of time, I didn't want to go on for an hour here, but I could. If I had an hour, I could probably give off a bunch of plays here. I just think there's so many good looks, just not in the NBA, but in soccer as well. So yeah, excited to see what happens tonight.
All right, so let's get rolling into the day because I'm assuming that the soccer plays are going off in the next few hours. And I definitely want everyone to have as much time as possible to get those in. What do you have for us in the soccer world today? I see Madrid maybe in both sides of Madrid here.
Yeah, but actually, we're gonna start off. I'm gonna try to do this chronologically here. So we actually got a couple of 2:45 p.m. Eastern kickoffs here. We're gonna start off in the Serie A, where we have a matchup between Sassuolo taking on Hellas Verona in this one. And we're gonna do a two-leg parlay here. So the first leg of my parlay is gonna be Sassuolo Hellas over 1.5 goals total in the match here. When we're looking at this over 1.5, it's hit in 17 of 24 head-to-head between these two sides. It's also hit in 14 of the last 17 for Sassuolo and 13 of the last 17 for Hellas Verona. So both teams here are trending in the terms of goals being scored. There has been at least one goal in 24 straight head-to-head matchups between these two sides. So safe to say we're going to get at least a goal. We're just looking for one more than that. And Verona coming to this one, having allowed the second most goals in all of Serie A. So not a very good defensive team here. Considering the trends here, I really like over 1.5 goals here between Sassuolo and Hellas Verona. But we're going to go ahead and parlay that with another game here in the French League One, where we have Brest going to be hosting Marseille. I like Marseille here. I think this is a good bounce back spot for Marseille. I like their team total over 1.5 here. Marseille, of course, they got a new manager, so of course you're going to get that new manager bounce that you typically get with teams. Then Brest on the other side here, winless in 6 of their last 8 matches. So not a very good side here in Brest. And they have allowed 2+ in 3 of their last 5 and 4 of their last 5 head-to-head against Marseille. So again, I think this is a good spot for Marseille to kind of right some wrongs here and get back on the right track. So I'm going to take Marseille team total over 1.5. We're going to parlay that with Sassuolo, Hellas Verona game total over 1.5, and you get that parlay at about plus 148 odds.
Yeah, actually, I got this at 155 over on Caesars, so I definitely love that value here. Is this at a full unit, like your rest of your plays, or are we paring it down because of the juice?
No, for me, I'll go full unit on this one. I feel fairly confident about this one being able to hit. So for me, it's going to be a full unit for sure.
Yes, sir. All right, what's your next play?
Yeah, so next up, we're going to go to the EPL, English Premier League. These matches are taking place over the weekend, so we got a couple of them on Saturday, one of them on Sunday here. But the 3 I'm looking at here, there's going to be another 3-leg parlay. First match we're going to look at here is going to be Chelsea hosting Burnley here. I like Chelsea on a team total over 1.5 goals here. Burnley have allowed a goal in 23 straight away matches in the EPL. So Burnley, not a very good team to begin with, especially on the road, especially defensively. So I think Chelsea here, with their offensive power, should be able to put in 2 goals against a Burnley side here. Chelsea, they've scored 2+ in 14 of the last 17 head-to-head against Burnley and 9 of their last 11 overall. So this is a Chelsea team that is in form offensively, and I do think they should be able to get over 1.5 goals here in this one. We're going to parlay that with another EPL match here between Manchester City, who's going to be hosting Newcastle. I like Man City here, team total over 1.5. This has hit in 16 of the last 21 head-to-head between Man City and Newcastle, and also 9 of the last 11 for Manchester City. Newcastle on the other side, they have allowed 2+ in 5 of their last 6 EPL matches. So Newcastle, we know about their woes on the road. Unless they're playing Karabakh, then they manage to score 6 goals and hold only 1 against. But other than that, I still think Newcastle is not a very good road team here. So I'm going to take Man City team total over 1.5. And then our third leg of this parlay is going to be a match taking place on Sunday in the EPL between Crystal Palace and Wolves. I'm taking Crystal Palace here on a draw no bet. Now, of course, Palace is not in very good form, but Wolves are in even worse form. Wolves winless in 26 out of 27 EPL matches. They have just 1 win on the season in the EPL. And I don't think an away match at Crystal Palace is going to be a victory for the Wolves here. So I like Crystal Palace to avoid a defeat. If we get a draw here, we'll get our money back on this part of the leg. But I like Crystal Palace here, draw no bet, plus Man City team total over 1.5, plus Chelsea team total over 1.5. And you're going to get that at plus 109.
That is phenomenal. And do you know what I played? So I've been pushing my BTTS over 2.5 in the Dortmund game and Bayern Munich on Saturday. But the other play that I played all the way back on Sunday or Monday of this week, and it was Man City's team total over 1.5 and Chelsea's team total over 1.5. I was literally, as you were talking, looking to put this bet in, and I was like, oh, wait, I already have this in.
There you go. Yeah, well, that makes us both feel better when we're on the same page. So, I just think these are great spots for all 3 of these sites here. Chelsea and Man City get goals, and then Crystal Palace. You can't lose at home to Wolves when Wolves are winless in 26 out of 27. So, great. I'm glad we're on the same page with that. Let me get to my next parlay here. I'm not going to give as much of a detailed analysis just because, like I said, I don't want. We're trying to keep the show under an hour, so I'll try to rip through these quick here. But another one I like here is going to be a La Liga parlay. I like Real Madrid draw no bet. We're going to parlay that with Atletico Madrid draw no bet. And our third leg is going to be Real Betis, draw no bet. So if you parlay those three together, you're going to get plus 104 odds. Real Madrid come into this one undefeated in 25 of their last 26 versus Osasuna. Atletico Madrid undefeated in 22 of their last 29 versus Espanyol. And then Real Betis undefeated in 17 of their last 24 versus Rayo Vallecano. So I think all three of these teams getting push insurance, just asking them not to lose the match here, and we're getting plus 104 odds for that. I really like that a lot. Did you have any thoughts on that before I get to my next one?
No, that's fantastic. I just got that in. That's a great bet.
Awesome. And then finally here, in terms of the show, I do have a lot more picks on the VIP channel. So if you guys are interested, you guys can check out my X profile over at PrinceOfPicks 10. There's a pin post on my profile with details on how to join the VIP channel, where I will have a lot more plays. But in terms of the show here, one more parlay I like. We're looking at Bayern Munich, a team total over 1.5. We're going to parlay that with PSG, team total over 1.5. And then our third leg here is going to be Arsenal, team total over 1.5. Bayern Munich, of course, they're taking on Frankfurt. Frankfurt's been a goal conceding machine here. Teams have just been scoring left and right on Frankfurt, and I think there's virtually no chance Bayern doesn't score at least 2 against Frankfurt. We're looking at PSG. They're taking on Metz, who are bottom of the table in League One, and they have allowed the most goals in all of League One. So I know you might consider these maybe look-ahead spots here with Champions League coming up over the midweek next week, but I think PSG, even if they play a rotated side, they're going to have enough talent here to get 2 goals against Metz. And then, of course, Arsenal here taking on Tottenham. I think this is a great bounce-back spot for Arsenal. They really can't afford to drop any more points. I mean, after drawing to Wolves, that was really a humiliating result, if you ask me. You can't do that against Wolves. And so I think Arsenal, they're going to have to turn it up here. They're going to need, probably want to get this one done and dusted here early, get the 2 goals. And probably win this game. Again, it's a game they really can't afford to lose. This says hitting 6 of the last 8 head-to-head between Arsenal and Tottenham. Arsenal scored 2+ against them. So again, Bayern Munich team total over 1.5, PSG team total over 1.5, Arsenal team total over 1.5 plus 102.
Nice. Yeah. And I said Dortmund earlier. I meant Frankfurt. And that's the game that I like both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. But yeah, that's a fantastic look. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing where the best line lies on there.
Awesome. And then one more for me in terms of the show picks. There was no way I could do this show here without giving probably my most anticipated game of the weekend. MLS is kicking off tomorrow, Saturday here, and we have an absolute banger of a matchup, the matchup of the year, in my opinion. Here, what a great matchup to start off the MLS season here. LAFC hosting Inter Miami. These are 2 Goliaths here in the MLS. Both of these teams are the top 2 teams in terms of odds in terms of winning the MLS Cup here. So they both are heavily favored in winning the MLS Cup. These are 2 of the most marketable teams in the MLS. Of course, you have LA, Miami. You got Messi with Miami, and you have Heung-min Son with LAFC, which these are the top 2 selling jerseys in all of MLS. These are the top 2 marketable players in all of MLS. Heung-min Son, of course, has a massive Korean following.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry for interrupting. He was the captain of Tottenham for a while, right?
He was, yes. He had a glorious career, excellent career with Tottenham. LAFC is very fortunate. I mean, he probably could have still played in Europe. I'm sure some teams would have taken him, but very fortunate to be joining LAFC on LAFC side. And with him and Denny Bouanga up top, that is an absolute lethal combination. In the attack there, of course, we just saw it midweek in the Champions Cup, where they put up 4 goals in less than 20 minutes. So you can say what you want about the competition, but in any case, MLS defenders are not that much better than the teams that they played in the Champions Cup. So I think this is just going to be an awesome matchup here. Now, Miami, of course, heavily favored in most people's opinions to win it all. It's kind of Miami's season to lose, just because they're coming off the MLS Cup, and they've gotten better in every position. Every position that they were weak at, they've improved. And so they're going to be a really tough team to beat here. But I think my angle here, I can't see anything less than 3 goals in this one. I think is going to be a really entertaining back and forth matchup here. So I'm going to take the over 3 in this one. You're going to get that at minus 125. And then if you're looking for like an additional play here, maybe a sprinkle, we're getting Miami on the money line at plus odds. And I don't think that's going to happen very often for Miami matches. I would say it's safe to say this might be the only time that we're going to get Miami at plus odds on the money line here. So based on that, I have to sprinkle some on Miami money line here in plus 215, even on a draw no bet plus 140. Again, just based on the value here that we're getting with Miami, I'll find it hard pressed to find another matchup here where Miami is not going to be favored. So the fact that we're getting plus money on them, that's going to be a sprinkle for me.
Yeah, you told me preseason that we're just going to be betting Miami every single match day, and then you're basically just going to win them all, or at least the majority of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. I mean, again, barring any injuries, right? Barring any kind of, I would say maybe underperforming players, with the amount of talent that they have just accumulated here. I mean, a lot of people are questioning if they've broken rules just because they've gotten so much better. People are like deep diving and saying, "Oh, this isn't fair. Miami shouldn't be allowed to do this. Are they breaking MLS rules?" MLS typically has very strict salary cap rules, so a lot of critics and pundits are kind of criticizing or maybe not criticizing, but just questioning how Miami's been able to do this because they've just gotten exponentially better at every position, and so I really do think it's their season to lose. I could see them completing the trifecta, whatever tournament they're in, Champions Cup, U.S. Open Cup, MLS Cup. I think they're going to be favored to win each and every one. But getting them a plus money, that's why I gotta play it here.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, we have Brad Betts, who is also just an incredible soccer capper in his own right. And I just want to apologize to you, Brad. Last time you were on the show, not on the show, but listening to the show, I may have asked you to come on. I wasn't really thinking about that, so I won't pressure you like that again. But again, if you ever want to come on to the show, you are very much welcome. You can come on every single day and be a permanent host if you would like. But anyway, I just wanted to apologize to you, and hi, thank you for coming on again.
Yo, what up, Mosh? What up, everybody? I don't need to apologize about literally anything. I didn't request to really say anything much other than add to Prince's, I guess, really just talk about the LAFC Miami game. The only thing I wanted to add is if you're going to be looking at sides, just confirm that Messi is in the lineup. He is a doubt, question, probable type of situation. And if Messi's not in the lineup, you don't want to pick Miami as a side per se. For me, it doesn't affect the goal total at all. In a sense of, I believe that it's going to smash goals. I also believe the over 3 is in play. It's what I gave out on DTL this morning. If you want to hear my explanation, you can go to DTL this morning. But just confirm Messi's in. Enjoy yourselves, guys. Good to hear from you. And as always, thanks for letting me hear.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Always good to have a double up on from cappers on one game, and I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that. I did have a question for both of you. Even, do you think that we're getting an inflated line on LAFC based on the performance from the CONCACAF series here? Like, we just saw them blow out. Right? They scored 4 or 5 goals in the first 25 minutes.
Yeah. No,
Is that
this
the
is
reason why?
basically an even money split. So in soccer, just like really, think football and basketball, there's always a home field advantage in play baked into the line. So if you have an even money line, let's say it would be plus 160 on either side, plus 150 on either side, kind of even money to take a side, that would be considered the away team as the favorite because they're even money, giving the home field advantage that's at play. So always knowing that this is basically a pick 'em, but they're citing LAFC because of home field advantage and because of the doubt with Messi.
That's amazing. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, and that's really valuable insight, especially in the soccer world where just a follow-up question actually, does that include American soccer? Because I know in European soccer, home field advantage may be a little bit more extreme. But like, I mean, obviously there is some advantage, but is it the same type of advantage?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have yet to go to a game. Philadelphia Union is literally 10-15 minutes away from me. So I do want to go at some point this year. They had quite a run last year, actually, I think, right?
Yeah, Philly's going to be good this year. They should be knocking on the door. They're just, unfortunately, not as good, not as well funded as Miami and LAFC, who who are the two best teams in the league, bar none. You have a couple teams who will compete, but nobody's as good as those teams. So without injuries, they will see each other in the final, pending being on the same side of the bracket.
Right. And I have to imagine that the reason why Miami and LA have such wide appeal is that they're able to attract maybe a little bit older talent from the European leagues to say, hey, come retire with us. Come to
Let me
Miami,
offer
come to
you
LA.
a second perspective. Money, money, money.
That's for sure too. It doesn't hurt. And Prince and I have talked about this. I think we kind of expect the MLS to kind of grow in stature over the next 10 to 15 years, and it looks like they are actively trying to bring up their level so that they're not considered a bottom tier league.
Hard to argue with the free agents that they've acquired, the big names. Yeah, some of them are in the latter end of their career, but some are good and some are in the younger part of their career. Some have stayed around. Some are hurt, like Ricky Puig. He's a star, but unfortunately, he suffered another setback, and he's going to be out for another season for the Galaxy, which is going to stink for them. But there's a lot of names in the league, and there's a lot of money within American sports, especially because it's a protected salary cap, which is how American is. American sports are run versus the European sport or the world sports, excuse me. But the MLS is having to restructure and will be restructuring their schedule very soon. I believe it's like within the next 1 or 2 seasons to the world schedule, essentially, where they start in August and end in May. So that will be a change. However, we'll never probably have promotion relegation because we have owner bought paid, like essentially like when you buy a seat at a stadium for football, you have to buy a PSL. So you have to buy a seat, and then you pay for the ticket, and you can then sell that seat or whatever. That's how it works. It kind of works the same way with the owners. You buy a team. You don't just play in a team. So now you are a part of it forever. So it's going to be really hard to put in a promotion relegation. MLS is going to something's going to have to happen as far as competition in order for it to actually become like the world.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to seeing those changes and how they try to bring their level up. Anything
And
else? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, yeah, real quick. Just along the lines of home field advantage, you were asking about, how Europe and MLS compare in terms of home and away field advantage here. Well, pulling up the stats here, home teams won. This was last year in the MLS. Home teams won on average 44% of their games, while the away team just won just 31%. That's including, if you have a three-way split, right, home, draw, and away. Or sorry, home win, draw, and away win. So home wins hit 44% of the time, draws 25%, and away wins 31%. So to kind of answer your question there, away teams struggle typically. Usually that there is a pretty significant home field advantage in MLS for whatever reason. Even if the travel is not that far for some of the games, right? And that's another thing you do have to consider is that away matches in the MLS are a lot more travel than away matches in the Bundesliga or La Liga or some of your other European leagues because just obviously the size and the just the how big these countries are compared to US, right? So that's another thing I think that factors into maybe why away teams struggle more so in the MLS.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. I'm going to be interested in seeing these trends and other trends that I want to talk about. It's going to be in the UFC, which I'm going to bring up at the end of our show. But I think we've had Drew waiting on the sidelines long enough. I want to bring him in here and talk college basketball. Unless you guys have anything else to add for the soccer slate for this weekend.
Not for me. Like I said, just excited to get into the MLS and start digging into the numbers here. Probably pretty soon.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to have soccer at late night again. There's definitely a void when maybe there's like no real basketball games or anything that you want to pay attention to. But this is really going into the crux of sports worlds where you start having almost every single sport going on at the same time. I
Oh,
love
and
it.
Yeah, real quick before just a final thought on soccer. A little tidbit here. DK has a promo going on where if you bet $10, you get Apple TV for 3 months for free, which basically would take you into the World Cup break for the MLS season. So those of you who don't have Apple TV but you want to tune into the MLS, see what's going on, see what all the hype is about with all these big name players trying to come over and all that. That's one way to get it for $10 for 3 months. So $10 bet on DraftKings gets you 3 months free of Apple TV. So just thought I'd do a little unpaid plug there for DraftKings.
Yeah, we gotta love those promos and take advantage of them when we can. Something that we have talked about in the past is trying to figure out maybe some ways to take advantage of those promos on all the different sports books. But without further ado, Drew, welcome in. Sorry we've kept you on the sideline. It's just Fridays, soccer weekends are just really full of the games. So I'm happy that we got to spend the time talking about them. What can we expect from tonight's games, though, in the NCAA in college basketball?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll talk about yesterday. UMC, the Retrievers pulled through. They beat Vermont. Vermont's not the powerhouse that he used to be. In my opinion, the American East is still a good team, but I think it's still. I think it's time for a new one. But an NGI team, they absolutely collapsed. They're up 11 and a half at home, and then they got outscored by 30 in the second half. So that was a very unfortunate break. You can't kind of predict that kind of thing. But to me, we only really have like. I personally think even mid majors, only three good games. And personally, I would say two because I don't really care for the Indiana Purdue game. I can't trust Purdue or I can't trust Indiana. Purdue is one of those teams where they've actually haven't played as good at home, but they can also just blow a team out like that. Indiana can stay with the team and beat a team on the road, or they can, they can blow it. But the last time these two teams played, Purdue went to Indiana and they lost, so it could be good revenge hop for Purdue. But I wouldn't recommend touching a double-digit spread on both sides for that. But I would say the two games that are, I think, the best games of the night. Personally, the first one is the best. It's VCU at St. Louis. These are the top two in the A10. St. Louis is coming off a tough loss at Rhode Island, the first conference loss. Last time VCU and St. Louis played, St. Louis went to VCU and they beat them pretty decently. St. Louis pulled away at the end. They won by 11 points. Personally, I think St. Louis is the overall better team, and I feel way more comfortable taking their halftime full time line here, better than taking the -7.5 on DK. It's -140 now, and you can use a St. Louis boost. There's a boost on DK that you can use on the St. Louis game or the Purdue game. I used it on St. Louis halftime full time to bring it to, I believe it was -108. And I personally like this. I saw more value on this. St. Louis at home this year is 11-4 ATS in first halves because you don't want to do like their record halftime full time because they won the first half. Then all you have to worry about is them winning the game in that case. So in first halves at home, they're 14-1, and that one half they lost, they didn't cover the spread either. So I think whoever wins the first half probably wins the game personally, and I think St. Louis overall has a home field advantage. They're coming off a loss. VCU is on, I think, is like a 10-game win streak. I think this is one of those, basically those bounce back off of St. Louis, and not necessarily saying VCU is due for a loss, but they haven't played St. Louis in a while. I believe their last loss was St. Louis, and I expect St. Louis coming out hungry this game because they need to win this to take full control of the A10. So that was my first one.
I love it. Just bought it -108 with the boost on DK.
Yeah, and the reason why I do that, guys, also is because I like looking at value. If someone's 14-1.5 at home, I prefer that than them being 11-4 ATS at home because 7.5 can be a scary number. Because all we have to do is St. Louis to win the first half, and then they can win by 1 point for all I care. You still hit. So that's how I see that. And then the next one, honestly, I don't understand why Miami, Ohio continues to get disrespected. They're only -8 right now against Bowling Green. I don't know if you guys saw that. Canada scored, but I don't know if you guys saw that first game for Bowling Green or heard about it. But Miami, Ohio went to Bowling Green and they were up 26 at half at Bowling Green, and then they ended up Bowling Green ended up being within like 10 points by the end, but it wasn't as close as you think. It was like 87-73 with like 2 minutes left, and Miami, Ohio just was like, we're going to take our foot off the gas. Bowling Green is not a good team by any measures, and Miami, Ohio is home here, and they're minus. I still think they're -8. I personally think, they're -7.5 now. So on DK, you can find that. And if you want to as well, personally, the Miami, Ohio halftime, full time is -170. Personally, I would take either of those. I know this sounds crazy, but I think because people like to fade Miami, Ohio a lot, I think that spread drops down to like -6.5 or -5.5 because people are just waiting for this team to lose, but they're not losing. I personally don't think they're going to lose another game. They know they can't lose another game because of their strength of schedule. And I think they're going to shoot the lights out, and it's going to be similar to the first game, Bowling Green. So right now, personally, I'm probably going to wait because this game is not till 8:30 Eastern. So I am predicting that Bowling Green is going to slowly gain steam after Miami did this morning.
I'm not waiting. I'm putting in the
Yeah.
-7.5 right now.
Yeah. I would take the -7.5 over halftime full time. I'll say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'll make my official pick -7.5. I'll make that my official pick. There we go.
All right, that's good.
You're
It's
right.
actually just ticked back up to -8.5. So there's clearly some sharp money coming in
Yeah.
on Miami, Ohio. Do you have any other picks? Because I actually have a parlay today, and
Yeah.
Miami, Ohio is one of those legs.
I don't have necessarily anything else that I liked like spread wise. I know there's not that many games today.
Yeah. All right. So let me get into my parlay real quick. I really considered just taking Purdue and Miami, Ohio on reduced spreads, but like you kind of said, and this was my analysis as well. I can't trust Purdue on the spread. It's just I can't do it. But what I can do is have a money line parlay. I'm taking 2 legs from the NBA, 2 legs from the college basketball. I'm taking Miami, Ohio, and Purdue money lines parlayed with the Timberwolves and the Thunder money lines. I got this at -132 over on MGM. You guys have any thoughts on that? I really like these spots actually a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. You said so. What were the college ones?
Miami,
Purdue
Ohio,
and
and
yeah.
Purdue, and then the
Yeah.
Thunder and
Oh,
Timberwolves.
okay.
And we're
Oh yeah.
playing the
I
Nets. I don't see opportunities for any of
yeah.
these opponents. And again, 4 legs is a tall task to ask for, but um, I think it's
Yeah,
worth
I
it
like
today.
Purdue to win. I like
Y-
Purdue to win a lot because I think it's a revenge spot for Purdue. Like you said, and like I said, I don't trust any kind of spreads with Purdue because Purdue, yeah, they could easily cover that and win by 20, but then they also can play close games. They're coming off a loss at Michigan, versus Michigan at home. And of course, Indiana is going to be desperate and want to win, but I don't see Indiana coming to Purdue and beating them. So I like that reduced spread. That's just a scary number with Indiana, especially with Indiana. They rely heavily on one or two people to do stuff. Lamar Wilkinson is one of the best players, I think, in NCAA. So if he's not get going, but it's one of those. Indiana can be one of those like shoot threes and basically get occasional pain points and. If they're not hitting the shots, it could get ugly. But I think Purdue is going to be in desperation mode because if they lose this too, their seed's going to drop. They're guaranteed in the tournament, but their seed is going to slowly drop, and they probably want a higher seed.
Yeah, that's yeah. And then on the basketball side, sorry, the professional basketball side, although I guess it's all professional now that you can get paid. Minnesota is at home taking on Dallas, who has not been great. They're without their star. And then of course we're taking OKC against Brooklyn. And while I could actually see Brooklyn maybe being competitive after being blown out by 40 points last night, I don't think that they win here. So I was able to take that. Took the juice from like -180 to -130, just taking that extra leg on that side. Prince, you have any thoughts on the NBA sides of the over here?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple. So, like I mentioned earlier, I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to struggle to score again tonight. So I'm actually on their team total under. I think I got that at under 97.5. I know that's a really low number, but Brooklyn, they just struggle that much offensively. And so, regardless of who plays for the Thunder, I think the Thunder are deep enough. Regardless of what kind of a roster we get out there, I think they're going to be good enough defensively to shut down a Brooklyn Nets team that one struggles to score, and two, you have to question their motivation. Right, this is another team that is in the tankathon, if you will. And so I'm not saying the players are going to play like it, but coaches will definitely keep an eye on the scoreboard, and if things start to get out of hand in terms of them winning or playing too well, right? I think organizationally they're going to want to pull some of their players and throw the game without intentionally throwing the game. If you get what I'm saying. So I like Brooklyn under team total for sure tonight. Another look that I like, and I gave this out in the VIP channel. I am all over the Washington Wizards tonight on the money line. I know it's gross, guys. I get it. It stinks. It smells bad. But you just got to put on your scuba diving mask here, plug your nose, and just dive into the sewage here because the Pacers are fully incentivized to not win this game. It would affect their draft capital here massively if they were to win this game. So they have every incentive organizationally to not win this game. Pacers are going to be without more of their players tonight. Of course, this is a back-to-back, both of these being in Washington. Wizards won last night. And I just think this will just be more detrimental to Indiana if they actually win this game than it would be to Washington. And if you're interested as to why that reason is, it all goes back to the Benedict Mathurin trade that happened a couple weeks ago, where they got draft compensation back for that. But that draft compensation, they only keep that pick if it goes 1 through 4. If it lands on 5 through 9, they lose that pick. So the more they win, the less chances they have to keep that pick. That's going to be a highly, highly valuable pick this draft. Of course, there's a bunch of big names. You could get number 1 draft value at the number 6, number 7 pick. There's that many good players in this draft coming up in the offseason here for the NBA. So Pacers on an organizational level, I just can't see it. I don't think Rick Carlisle will allow them to win. Honestly, I think if you see them winning, he could bench some of those guys and get some other guys in there that haven't gotten many minutes here. And I just think too much to lose here. Too much to lose for the Pacers to win. So I'm all over the Wizards.
When can we expect changes to how we do seeding and for the draft picks? Because we just saw the Utah Jazz and who else was it that just got fined for tanking?
Yeah, it was the Jazz. I'm drawing a blank, but there were 2 teams that got, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, clearly though the league is not happy with it. The fans are not happy with it. These are supposed to be professional games, and when people go to watch these games, they don't want to see their stars sit out. Yeah, Drew, you come on in if you have an opinion on this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just wondering when this whole situation is going to get resolved. Are you?
So I know a good change to this. A good change is because of course every team has a certain amount of like lottery balls, right? You lose a lottery ball for every time this happens, and then I think that will teach him, not to do that kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Oh, interesting. That's a good point. Maybe that's how they do it. They also have to. I feel like they have to stop trading draft picks based on when they finish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
That's like a clear.
Yeah, so to that point, so actually the NBA has actually come out and said that they are discussing ways to solve this as early as next season. Obviously, this is taking a major hit on their brand, right? You can't have teams intentionally losing just on so many levels. It just cannot happen. So the NBA is trying to address it. They're trying to address it quickly here. They come up with a few different solutions that I've heard of. One of those, from I've heard from multiple sources, is maybe just entirely abolishing the NBA draft, getting rid of the draft entirely, and making it more so just the highest bidder gets the player. I'm not so sure if that really is going to work because the draft is just such an integral part of the NBA over the history of its existence. And so I don't know if that's really going to be the ultimate solution. I mean, it would obviously eliminate teams from tanking if you're tanking for what, right? You're not going to get a high draft pick. Another solution that I heard was that take the team's records when they get into the All-Star break. and whatever those records are, that's how you're locked in terms of your draft positioning. So that would incentivize teams to really have no motive to tank after the All Star break, because whatever your record is going into the All Star break would be kind of the cutoff point in terms of where you would draft or your chances of getting the first pick, second pick, so on and forth, so forth. I don't know what you guys thought about that one. That one was a little bit
So
interesting to me, but what do you think?
So do you know why the 1985 the lottery was actually created? It was created to people to avoid to get the first overall pick and this to happen. So people wouldn't just tank to be the worst team; they get the first overall pick. So they created the lottery for this specific reason, and people are still, of course, doing it later on. It wasn't happening as much after 1985 because people were like, "Oh, okay, you know." And then it started happening again. So the lottery was created for that reason. I think hockey has something similar too. So in this case, I think keeping the lottery is important, but to kind of the best thing to solve this, since they have that, is to basically try to penalize them around the lottery.
Yeah, that's another great look. And I did hear something about that too. Or another one I heard was if you drop in the top three, or if you get a top three pick, you can't get it in consecutive years. So teams like Utah, right, teams that have been tanking year after year after year, they wouldn't be able to do that anymore because they wouldn't be incentivized for it, because obviously you can only get your top three one time. So that was another one I heard that was kind of intriguing to me. I do think there's a solution. You probably have to think a little bit outside the box, but other than relegation, right, which all soccer fans always say, oh, have promotion relegation. That's never going to happen in America. It's just not part of the American sports landscape. There's just too much money to lose. When this promotion relegation stuff started, you're talking about hundreds of years ago, where the money was nowhere near what it is now. So it's too late to start that, in my opinion. So I don't think that's ever going to happen. But other than that, I do think there has to be some kind of a solution, and it's got to go away. It's just bad for sports, bad for competition, bad for the brand of the NBA. NBA has enough problems as it is. They don't need teams intentionally losing on top of everything else that they're going through right now.
Yeah, I would personally love to see regulation on relegation, sorry, on all professional sports. I think it's a brilliant idea that they brought over from Europe, but I also think that you're right. It's the same reason why you don't have easy change in baseball. You have people who are making too much money for it to allow for
There's
major change.
What's the incentive for the owners, right? They're the ones that have the money. Why would they be welcome to relegation, right? Why would they be welcome to making an investment that could potentially lose them millions of dollars if their team doesn't perform at the level that they need to? So that's why I just, from a competitive standpoint, I think of course, every single level of a sport should have promotion relegation. You would never have teams tanking and stuff like that. Drew, do you got any thoughts?
Yeah, so something I will say, something that's great about the baseball draft, there never really is like everybody in the first round usually in the baseball draft are generally like really good players, and also there's a lot of the baseball is such a variant sport, which I love, to where you can draft the number one overall pick and then they could be a bust, and like the 23rd pick like Trout could be too, but there's never like a clear number one pick. Like once in a generation you'll get like a clear one like Bryce Harper, or something like that. So that's something about MLB. That's why you don't really see much tanking in MLB, because you can find gyms in like the third or fourth round. There's so many rounds. So that's where MLB has the draft thing kind of handled really well, I like. And the NFL, people forget, with the NFL, it's really bad because they don't have any kind of lottery system at all. And people just will tank, get the number one overall pick. And then if they have the number one pick, they don't need a quarterback, they can get the most assets out of it. So we definitely need to
So
correct the NBA and NFL.
So I would like to bring up the NFL in terms of teams tanking. Yeah, you're right. There are definitely teams that tank, but I think that there is much more of a connection between the fans and NFL teams from than what I see from the fans and NBA teams.
I couldn't agree with you more, Stern. I think it's just not in the culture, right? It's just not in the culture of the NFL, right? I mean, say what you want. It's a contact sport. It's a tough sport, right? Guys, work their whole lives, put their body through hell to get where they're at. And a lot of these guys, they're playing to continue their careers, right? So it's not as easy to get into the NFL as maybe other sports. And so,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so limited. There's only so
it's
many
so
Yeah, it's
spots.
also a
limited,
sport you can't half-ass. I'll say that it'll get killed.
Yeah,
So
100%.
like they still try in a way, right? They try more than, of course, NBA does, because you kind of need to, because if you just half-ass a route, you're gonna get decked.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Yeah. So I just think it's just a different mindset, it's a different culture. And you know what? The money is different too. I mean, NBA players are getting paid more, which is crazy considering how much of a behemoth the NFL is. But that's another issue that probably needs to get solved at some point. But there's too much money in NBA, and these guys are just a different culture. It's just
Yeah,
Part
and
of the
if you
reason because
really
there's only 5 starters. That's
yeah,
why.
yeah, yep, that too for sure.
yeah, and if you really want to learn how these sports work, just look at the unions that control them, because that is going to define how these rules are adopted and placed, coming up. And I love seeing the differences between NFL, MLB, NBA, all the way that they're structured, the way that the money is coming in has a significant impact on how these games are changing for the future. And it could be argued maybe that you don't want any change, but I think change is inevitable. So got to roll with it. Nothing else you can do. But let's bring it back to the picks here. I have 3 picks for this Saturday night's fight night over in Houston. This is going to be at the Wells Fargo Center, I believe. Toyota Center. Sorry, my bad. Wells Fargo Center is here in Philadelphia. It's going to be heavily featuring a lot of fighters with ties to the Texas State. Something to note, Sekon Quo is not fighting due to last-minute injury, and the undefeated Hosea Harrell has stepped in to face Jacoby Smith. I do have a pick in that game, but you're going to have to read my article to find out what it is. 2 interesting metrics that I saw here for this fight here. 5 of these fights have fighters maintaining a 5-year youth advantage, which typically, or I should say historically, have won 60% of the time. The other thing is that so far this year, since the UFC has been on Paramount Plus, I don't think that there's a connection. It just happens to be the year. Betting favorites have won 26-8, yielding a 76.4% win percentage. Now, I do happen to like a lot of favorites this weekend, and it's very tempting to jump on, but something to know, regression to the mean pretty much happens across every single sport. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out this Saturday night. I have 3 plays to give out here on the show. I do have a pick in every single fight going forward. But first fight of the night in the prelims, we have Juliana Miller facing Carly Judas. I like the over 1.5 rounds here. Yes, it is juiced at -150. I put a half a unit on this. Judas is the better fighter here. Metrics overwhelmingly favor her. She has a 10.73 significant strikes per minute. That is an insane pace. On the same metric for Miller, she carries a 2.73 significant strikes per minute, and not exactly a great striking defense. So I do like Judas to get the win here, but there is a huge value on the model for over 1.5 rounds. You can also take over 2.5 rounds at plus 130, but I'm going to take the over 1.5 rounds because I think Judas will overwhelm Miller overall through 2 rounds. So even though I like Judas to win by KO and TKO, I'm taking the over 1.5 rounds as a lesser payout, because I really think that at least Miller can hang in there for just a little bit until she's overwhelmed eventually. The second fight that I have here is Alden Correa facing Luis Garul. I like the fight to go the distance here. Similar thing. This is -135 over an MGM. Also not great juice, but again, these fights are priced very efficiently across the board. Not a lot of edges here on the model. So, but when I'm looking at these 2 fighters, there's only a 7% finish rate in each round, which is extremely low. Usually you have somewhere between a 9 and 14% chance of a finish inside each round. But these are both tacticians. They're not interested in finishing each other. They're interested in trying to win by decision. I think that the fight going the distance is extremely likely. And if you wanted to juice that a little bit more, you could take either of these fighters to win by decision, but I don't want to have to go to the scorecards. If it goes to the scorecards, I want to win. The last play that I have here publicly is Zachary Reese versus Michael Pereira. This fight is going to be a banger, man. I'm telling you, if you're going to watch any fight except for the main card, which, I mean, come on, you got to watch the main card here. It's going to be an incredible fight. Both of these fighters are very unreliable defensively, and both of these fighters are going to have clear knockout opportunities on each side. I think this is really a coin flip. The model lengths is like 49.51, which definitely provides value on Reese as the underdog at plus 140. Why not? That's also a play of mine. But I love one of these fighters to get knocked out before the bell rings. I like the method of victory by any fighter by KO or TKO at minus 150. You guys have any thoughts about the fight coming up?
Nope, not me. But I'll defer to you on all things UFC related.
Yeah, and just for the listeners here, I am not necessarily a UFC expert. I've been a fan for many years, but I do synthesize multiple experts' opinions, and I have a pretty great model provided by Mike McClure. So I feel pretty confident in giving these picks out, even though I am not necessarily the expert myself. So yeah, if you're looking at early edge data, that is primarily where I'm getting a lot of my data from, along with some other sources that I have just doing my own research. But I think that's going to do it for us today. We're running up on the hour. This was a phenomenal show. We had Brad Betts coming in, giving out a pick. That was fun. Prince of Picks, you got soccer picks all day, all weekend. That's also fantastic. And Drew, our man, I'm very excited to see those basketball games going off later. Let's recap our best bets real quick and get on out of here. Drew, you want to go first?
Yeah, my best bets are St. Louis halftime, full time with boost to minus 108, and then Miami, Ohio minus 7.5.
Fantastic. I'm going to go run through my plays real quick. I have a money line parlay across the NBA and NCAA. Timberwolves, Thunder, Purdue, and Miami, Ohio. That's at minus 132. I have two soccer plays for Saturday. Bayern Munich, Frankfurt, BTTS, and over 2.5 goals, minus 135. You can just get the BTTS at minus 140 right now, actually, if you just want to play that side. And then I lanked the two-leg team total parlay that Prince gave out. I got this last Sunday, minus 121. Man City and Chelsea both to score 1.5 goals. And then in the UFC, I lank Zachary Reese, Michael Pereira to the method of victory by KO TKO, minus 150. Alden Correa and Luis Gurel. I like the fight to go the distance at minus 135. And then Juliana Miller and Carly Judas, I like over 1.5 rounds at minus 150. Prince, I'm handing it off to you, man.
Yeah, so for me here, to recap my plays, I like Marseille team total over 1.5, parlayed with Sassuolo, Hellas Verona, game total over 1.5. Gonna get that around plus 148 odds. I also like in the EPL, Chelsea team total over 1.5, plus Manchester City team total over 1.5, plus Crystal Palace on a draw no bet. Gonna get that at plus 109 odds. For another one I like here is going to be a La Liga parlay. We're looking at Real Madrid, draw no bet, plus Atletico Madrid, draw no bet, plus Real Betis, draw no bet. You're going to get that at plus 104 odds. And then I also like Bayern Munich, team total over 1.5, plus PSG, team total over 1.5, plus Arsenal, team total over 1.5. You're going to get that at plus 102. And then final for me here in the MLS, we're looking at LAFC and Inter Miami over 3 goals at minus 125. Stern, any final thoughts here before I get us out of here?
No, I'm very excited for this weekend. It's going to be an awesome weekend in sports, and it's just getting better. Like, it's really, this is the time. Baseball's starting. I forgot Corbin Carroll was injured for Arizona. That's going to be huge. Sorry, I'm not going to digress anymore on that. Yeah, I'm very excited for the upcoming season, and hopefully on Monday, maybe I'll have a preseason play or two in the MLB.
Awesome. Love the foreshadowing. So excited to see what that's all about. And it's been a great show today. Like I said, got a great sports landscape here over the next several days. So hopefully, you guys have enjoyed everything that we have given you for the OnlyBets Sports Podcast. My co-host SternBets, my co-host DrewDelucchi. Big thanks to Brad Betts for coming on and giving his analysis and thoughts. For all of us here at OnlyBets, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We will see you guys soon. And until next time, thanks for everything, guys.